Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren, liebe Freundinnen und Freunde der ETH.
Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, friends of the ETH Zurich, I would like to welcome you on behalf of the entire executive board to today's ETH Day. We are currently going through very difficult times, which is why we're very glad to be able to celebrate this 165th anniversary of our university. Even if we are in the Semper Aula, in the Hall of Semper, and only have a small number of guests that are here in person. Here in this hall, we're all wearing face masks. However, we've taken the necessary measures to be able to talk to you without our mask on. I have to admit that it is a strange feeling on this special day to be standing here with the rector's chain of office and to talk to you and welcome you to this day through a screen, instead of being able to welcome you here in person in our main hall. Because to walk down this aisle, coming here, listening to the fanfare, all alone, well, that was not fun. I'd like to welcome you all who are online, and I'm very happy to see that you have logged on to this celebration. Because there's no point in complaining. Together, we are making the best of the situation, just as we have done throughout the year. Switching to emergency mode due to the corona pandemic in mid-March was a virtual stress test for the ETH Zurich. We proved, however, that our organization, our participation and decision-taking making processes work very well. We were able to adapt quickly to new circumstances. And thanks to our excellent teamwork, our flexibility, and also the great efforts made by pretty much all members of the ETH, we have been able to manage the crisis quite well so far. And it is a great pleasure for me to be the rector of this excellent technical university. Switching to remote teaching, to distance learning in spring, well, that went quite well. And the feedback we obtained from the students after the spring semester was overwhelmingly positive. And also our lecturers said that it was quite a positive experience. However, both sides, of course, are sad that the classroom teaching was not possible. Exams took place in person thanks to declining infection rates, still with the necessary protective measures. Rules on hygiene and social distancing had to be complied with, and we had to make sure not too many students were on campus at the same time at any given point. And in general, the results of the exams were quite comparable with the previous years. However, a direct comparison is quite difficult because we did not record the failed attempts, which means that those who did not pass their exams are able to take the exam next year again without any precedent, so to speak. For the fall semester, we wanted to make it possible for all students to have certain amount of time in person here, especially when it comes to the exercise and practices, because especially for first semester students, that is very important. So they can form study groups and get to know new people, which is very important for their success and their learning. An innovative safety concept was established to make sure that is possible, and so far it has worked quite well. The so-called bubbles, so the groups in which first semester students did their practice sessions prove to be very successful, and we're actually considering to keep them as a structure even after the pandemic. The intensity of the second corona wave led to us having to decide that practically all classes had to again transition into the virtual space. It was a necessity, and I have to say I am still quite worried. Let me explain. We know that content and methods can be taught at a distance. Many students actually appreciate to be able to attend lectures whenever they want and wherever they want, even if that requires a higher amount of discipline. Competencies, namely how to deal with information, how to apply knowledge, that is something that needs to be practiced. And those practice sessions can be done remotely. However, that only works to a certain extent, because there's no immediate exchange, no direct exchange. The passion for a subject, and therefore the values that this entails, is something that can only be conveyed in person, in a direct exchange between lecturers and students. And just as important, this is something that also grows thanks to the interactions between the students. On top of that, it is a fact that university teaching is not a one-way street. It's about giving and taking. Spontaneous reactions, interventions from students are inspiring to lecturers and researchers and are also a motivating factor. So, thus far, my thoughts on the teaching. What I'm a bit more worried about, however, is that there's a lack of exchange among the students, that the social component is lacking, which can have negative effects on mental health. Because it's the young people that are suffering the most in this situation, in this current situation. We have expanded our offers regarding support programs. However, each and everyone has to find their own way on how to deal with the lack of social interaction on campus. In the Rectorate, we currently are making all efforts we can to make it sure that students can finish their semester the best way possible. This also means to find a way to have exams, have exams take place with the necessary presence, in-person exams. Crises are acid tests, and our school has proven to have put its best foot forward. The ETH spirit was tangible, and it helped all of us, and all of those who had a lot of questions, and that there were challenges that we were able to overcome within a very short amount of time. And I'd like to thank all of our lecturers, but also all our employees in the technical administrative area, as well as the central organs and the departments, central bodies and the departments. Dozens of ETH members have worked on the weekends, have worked all night to make sure that they could reach an optimal result for our teaching sessions. A special thanks goes to my executive board colleague, Willy Weidmann. He spearheaded, with the utmost care, the crisis unit at the ETH. He gave plenty of support and continues to do so. But also like to thank all other executive board members for this excellent cooperation in these difficult times. Last but not least, I'd like to thank our students, because they also had to overnight really adapt to new situations. Many have made efforts that go far beyond their own studies. One example, when we were looking for TAs, we had so many applications that we weren't able to take on everyone. And then there are those who really do extraordinary things. I have the great pleasure to be able to introduce to you 3 students today, 3 students that have implemented projects in spring to be able to mitigate the distress where it was the most difficult, meaning in hospitals and healthcare facilities. I'd like to ask Celine Stefanoni, Rahul Schmidt, and Luca Schaufelberger to come to the stage.
Liebe Gäste, ich darf nun die
Dear guests, let me introduce these 3 students to you. Celine Stefanoni obtained her master's degree at the ETH in 2017 in the Department of Health Sciences and Technology. Ever since this summer, she has been working to get her PhD in biomedical systems in the biomedical systems groups of Professor Mirko Mesot. She tries to develop innovative systems for the healthcare sector. And during the lockdown, she not only worked on her own research, but also worked for the Helpful ETH initiative, which she will introduce to you. Rahul Schmidt, in August this year, obtained her bachelor's degree in the first cohort of the Human Medicine Department at the ETH. Currently, she is studying the new master's program of Human Medicine at the Università della Svizzera Italiana, and she also organizes events on the topic of vaccination. When the corona crisis emerged, she launched the initiative Students for Hospitals together with her partner, Luca Schaufelberger. Luca Schaufelberger is a third-year bachelor student in interdisciplinary sciences. On top of the studies he's pursuing, he's also active in science communication. He organizes the talk series Nanotalks and also gives workshops on scientific storytelling. Together with Rahul Schmidt, he will present to you the initiative Students for Hospitals. Students, the stage is yours.
Ja, liebe Gäste, Sie fragen sich, was es mit diesem
Dear guests, you might wonder what this face shield is all about. Well, it's not just a measure for today, to be safe today, but it's one of the projects that was implemented by Helpful ETH. When we did this, we had the idea that the partners and the hospitals, especially the university hospital, that we were wanting to offer them our support. We all remember our protective gear was lacking in hospitals. Our partners were excited about our idea, which is how we came up with these face shields that were 3D printed. And we produced 2,800 pieces and distributed them. The feedback was overwhelmingly positive, so we received a lot of requests from healthcare facilities all around Switzerland, which is how we developed our non-profit organization within a few weeks, and we had over 200 volunteers from research, industry, and the healthcare sector. Additionally, this became a part of the national COVID-19 task force. Our goal was to be able to overcome obstacles in COVID-19, in the fight against COVID-19 in the healthcare sector. And we used our interdisciplinary project teams and the agile product development that we have here. In total, 18 projects, and one is Proning Taco. This is another project I'd like to introduce to you. This taco was developed because there is a lack of healthcare personnel in the hospitals. As you can see, this taco is basically a shell in which the patient can be put, and it can be used to turn a patient around This requires only 3 healthcare professionals instead of 5 to 7. The scarcity of personnel during this extraordinary situation was also the reason why Students for Hospitals emerged as a project from Rahul and Luca.
Vielen Dank, Céline. Liebe Gäste.
Thank you very much, Celine. Dear guests, before this state of emergency was declared in Switzerland, in the cantonal hospital of Baden, I was measuring fever, I was measuring their temperature, and I distributed face masks. So I was doing that, and I received an urgent email. They were searching for med students to work in this COVID situation. And I dropped everything. I went there and I saw that the biggest problem was that there was a lack in personnel at all levels. When I was eating dinner with Luca, I told him about what I experienced at the hospital, and we had the idea that students, not only med students, could help out here when it comes to checking people at the entrance or just certain care tasks. Well, on a Sunday evening, when we were doing our dishes, we actually came up with a plan, because this had to happen fast. Within 4 days, we launched the platform Students for Hospitals, and we had already taken up our contacts with different institutions, and we received support from all sides. Our team grew quickly, and the ETH also supported us efficiently. Sarah Springman and also Jörg Goldhahn, who is the project head in the Department of Medicine. And being fast is important. If were contacted by a healthcare facility, within a couple of hours, we were able to find students from the region, were able to give them their tasks, and they were able to start their work. Which is how, during the first wave in spring, we were able to deploy over 120 students in over 20 healthcare facilities. And what was very nice is that we were able to establish visitors' boxes, so to speak, in healthcare places where people could visit their loved ones, and only being separated by a glass compartment.
Vielen herzlichen Dank für diese Ausführungen.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you for the presentation of these projects. We're very proud of your work. Thank you very much. It is excellent what you have done in this time, and what you were able to do in this amount of time. And also for other students, thank you very much. Rahul and Luca, on top of their commitment here during the summer, have also taken some exams, and they passed. So congratulations on that. And I wish you all a lot of success, all the best in your continued career here. And you can now take your seats.
Meine Damen und Herren,
ladies and gentlemen, before I hand over to our president, Joël Mesot, I would like to express a special word of thank you. A word of thank you to my colleague on the executive board, Detlef Günther. He is the vice president for research, and during the entire period of time, he fully supported the needs of teaching, and as helpful ETH shows, research and teaching go hand in hand at ETH. Robert Perich, our Minister of Finance in inverted commas, also is owed a word of gratitude for making readily available the necessary resources. And finally, I would like to thank President Joël Mesot from the bottom of my heart. He steered ETH through the crisis with a steady hand, and he turned the executive board into a powerful team that demonstrated that we can do this together. So let me hand over to you, Joël. Thank you.
Danke, Sarah.
Thank you, Sarah. I would like to thank you very much for your own performance and the support you provided. We've been a very powerful team, and that's the way I imagined us to cooperate. So thank you for everything you're doing. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, dear friends of ETH, let me bid a cordial welcome to you to this year's ETH Day. Around a year ago, at my first ETH Day as the president of this proud institution, I was expressing a faint hope for 2020 to be a calmer year than turbulent 2019. Well, now, as everyone knows, things never turn out the way I expect. But I learned from it, what I learned from it is that I wouldn't expect a calmer next year, or wouldn't bet on a calmer next year until I reach retirement age. Our rector has already said so and has given an impressive presentation from the point of view of teaching and showing what a radical break the coronavirus pandemic was for our day-to-day life at this institution. We've been forced to improvise, to rethink processes, and to time and again adjust to an ever-changing situation. So the provisional has become the new normal. As the students at ETH rolled up their sleeves quickly in this extraordinary situation, offering their help, we have just been given an impressive account of it. I can remember well when I received an email and my answer to it was 2 seconds later, well, I think this is an ingenious idea, let's go ahead. I would like to state a few examples of researchers and their commitment and community spirit. I'm thinking of the calculations of Tanya Stadler and her team on exponential dissemination of the virus, or the prototypes of a cost-efficient ventilator developed by Christina Scheer, a researcher at ETH, within just a few weeks, or the somewhat 50 new projects on COVID-19 launched by researchers this year. For the tracing of infection hotspots, Switzerland bets on digital technology, and researchers from EPFL and ETH Zurich have developed the blueprint for the tracing app, whose decentralized architecture convinced IT giants Apple and Google, paving the way for the Swiss COVID app. This is no mean feat, and it demonstrates what our institutes of higher education are capable of, provided they bundle their forces. Quick response and the merging of various skills and competencies was possible only because the two institutions of higher education have been investing in computer science and cybersecurity for a number of years. And what is just as important is that researchers from around Europe have cooperated in this project. Our people were able to tap into a well-established international network right away. Switzerland, in splendid isolation, wouldn't have been in the position to do that. I think my message is clear enough. And as the final example, let me mention our professors who are committed to working in the scientific task force. Such an advisory body of the Swiss Confederation is a novel thing for this country, and the chairman of the ETH board, Michael Hengartner, has contributed greatly to it. And I would like to thank you, and in particular Martin Ackermann as the chairman of the body, for their great work. Cooperation between the state and the task force is not always easy, but it is absolutely indispensable in overcoming the health crisis. And recent months have also shown that indefensible half-truths and untruths seem to be doing very well in periods of crisis. This is a bit of a headache to me. We need to develop strategies against it, and we're already working on doing so. Beyond current priorities, we as an institution have to and want to look towards the future. The executive board of ETH has launched Rethink, an organizational development project, to make sure that ETH will live up to its role as a first-rate institution of education, research and innovation on behalf of Switzerland. There is need for action because Switzerland and the world around it are changing. This relates both to competition and expectations from politicians and society. By means of Rethink, we are getting involved all relevant stakeholders, promoting the interplay between faculties, departments and central institutions, but it's also a matter of our self-image and the values that ETH wants to defend. I would like to address a special word of thank you to our General Secretary, Katharina Peuger, the project manager, who did an excellent job carrying out this task. We have reached a first milestone by reinforcing the executive board with the addition of 2 new colleagues. Julia Danat-Schuh took on her function as Vice President for Personnel Development and Leadership on the 1st of November, and Vanessa Wood will join ETH as the new Vice President for Knowledge Transfer and Business Relations from the beginning of next year. On behalf of the entire Executive Board, let me say this: we're very happy to have the 2 new colleagues joining us in these leading positions. The virus has robbed us of many opportunities to physically award prizes and distinctions. There would have been a lot of causes for celebration in this year. Among the highlights, I would like to mention the Marcel Benoit Prize to Rudi Ebersold. This distinction is often referred to as the Swiss Nobel Prize, and for the 3rd time in a row, it went to a researcher from ETH. In the European competition for ERC grants, our researchers have done very well once more. And a contest of a very special kind took place last week, November 13th and 14th. I'm talking about the ETH Cybathlon, with more than 50 teams competing from around the world. I was deeply impressed with the commitment that physically impaired people and their teams mastered the tasks with. COVID-19 upset multi-year planning, but everyone participating and everyone involved stood firm and found ways and means to carry out the Cybathlon as an online event, complying with health rules and regulations. The most recent reports from pharmaceutical companies fill us with hope that there will be a vaccine against SARS-2 in 2021. And yet, the world community continues to be faced with tremendous challenges. The pandemic has shaken up the world economy. It paralyzed global trade, forced to their knees entire industries, and brought health systems to their limits. Around the world, more than 1.3 million people have died of COVID-19. Millions and millions have lost their jobs or are faced with an uncertain future. In times like these, it is all the more important to show solidarity and to tap into personal relations and friendships to find force, be it at personal or institutional level. ETH Zurich, ladies and gentlemen, is very fortunate to receive support from many sides, and I would like to express a special word of thank you to representatives from politics and industry, to the ETH Council, and to sponsors and alumni who firmly believe in the value of education and research. We have the privilege of counting on two such alumni, and to whom we can give awards today. And finally, my hat's off seeing the performance from students, staff, and professors who were exposed to a great deal of stress. And this year, this includes my colleagues on the executive board who considerably contributed to ETH going through the crisis comparatively well. I do hope that 2021 will be a better year than 2020, but I'm not hoping for a calmer year. As I said at the outset, I have postponed this wish for a later period in my life. So stay safe and healthy, please.
Meine Damen und Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, life is taking its course.
auch im vergangenen Jahr
In the past year,
Hochschule, den
ETH had to suffer the death of several of its members, and we will now show their names on the screen. While we are thinking of the deceased, a string quartet of the academic orchestra will play Variation number 9, Nimrod, from Sir Edward Elgar's Enigma Variations.
Liebe Gäste,
Dear guests,
die ETH Zurich
ETH of Zurich will honor the memory of all the deceased persons.
danke dem Quartett.
A cordial thank you to the quartet for their music, and I would like to ask you for a round of applause for our musicians.
Liebe Gäste, trotz schwieriger
Dear
Umstände
guest, despite the difficult circumstances, researchers, lecturers, and students have done extraordinary things in this past year. And some of these achievements we would like to now underline and highlight. Such as every year, we aren't able to honor everyone who deserves it, which is why I'd like to ask you for a big round of applause for all of those who will not be mentioned by name today.
Wir beginnen mit der Verleihung der Industrie- und
We start with the award ceremony for the Industry and Foundation Prize for extraordinary master's theses and PhD theses, and then we will award the Latzis and the Lopez Loreto Prize. Considering the current restrictions on events, unfortunately, I am not able to hand over the certificates in person here today. However, I invited all the laureates to my office prior to the ETH Day to be able to congratulate them in person. With the exception of 3 laureates who live abroad, all award winners were able to attend this meeting, and we will be showing you some pictures.
Ich bitte um einen Applaus für die
I would like to ask you for a big round of applause for all the laureates.
die bestimmt über den Livestream
I'm sure they're all participating
teilnehmen.
via live stream in this event.
Everybody, that's also important. Even your rector can do this. Thank you. Cut. Meine Damen und Herren, die Dozierenden
Ladies and gentlemen, the lecturers traditionally are honored by the Student Association on this ETH Day. This year as well, the Student Association will award a prize to 1 lecturer per department. The prize is called a Golden Eule, a Golden Owl, to be able to honor their extraordinary achievements as teachers. And 1 person will receive the Credit Suisse Award for Best Teaching. Before we proceed with this ceremony, I'd like to ask Luca Dahle to the stage because he is the president of the Student Association. I would like to talk to you.
Sehr geehrter Herr Präsident, lieber Joël, sehr geehrte
Distinguished
Professorin,
President,
Sarah,
dear
meine sehr
Joel,
geehrten Damen und Herren.
distinguished Rector,
Um den
dear Sarah,
Corona-Vorgaben
ladies and
gerecht zu werden
gentlemen.
und die Feiern nicht unnötig
To
auszudehnen, muss ich
comply
schnell
with the
auf den
corona restrictions and to not drag this out for too long, I have to get cut to the chase. Thank God, because I'm not very good at long talks and speeches, such as every professor who has ever seen a paper of mine will confirm. As a newbie, as a first semester, I was wondering, what is this ETH Day when I heard of it for the first time? And now, I'm able to welcome you on behalf of the student body on this day. Excellent teaching, research, the international environment, and the possibilities offered by this university are one of the reasons we as students are proud to be part of the ETH. What we appreciate is how open we are in our communication when it comes also to difficult topics such as mental health. A great survey of the ETH among the students of the Student Association resulted in the following figures. 23% of all students consider their mental health state to be varying, rather bad, or even very bad. And this points to a deficit here. However, the school has a very open dialogue about this, and this university, in its striving for excellence, also wants to improve here. Due to the current pandemic, this topic has become more significant. Ever since the first lockdown happened, students have been doing extraordinary things for their career, their studies, the university, but last but not least, also for society at large. Because of the isolation, online teaching, and the increased pressure on, or constant pressure on performing well, it is very difficult. And I myself in spring have been experiencing what we could call cabin fever. And I'm not alone in this. So this is a very extraordinary situation, and in a phase in life where many of us are on our own for the first time. And wherever possible, we have to do everything in our power to relieve pressure from their studies for students, because the pandemic should not decide upon dropping out or continuing about success or failure. Lecturers here have a crucial role. With passion and creativity, they try to turn the crowded student homes into a lecturing hall, but more about that later. I'd like to mention two topics that have nothing to do with the corona situation, but are still on our minds. When tuition fees go up, at the same time, however, staff-to-student ratio deteriorates and there are less and less places for the students to study, and the lectures, due to lack of space, are taking place later and later in the day, we have to ask ourselves what the priorities are of this university when it comes to teaching. With the project mentioned by the ETH president, Rethink, we have the possibility to discuss this topic across departments and across all levels of hierarchy. And I'd like to remind all of us that the ETH stipulates that teaching should be the very most important part here. And for us students, it's absolutely crucial that we're able to do exchange semesters in an unbureaucratic way abroad, to have more experiences, get experiences in other cultures, continents, other language environments. That's part of the quality of the education here. Ladies and gentlemen, you can see that I'm valuing the quality of our education highly. And I'd like to highlight the tasks and relevance of our TAs. Despite pursuing their own studies, they really went above and beyond for us, for the students, not only in their fields of expertise, but also at a personal level. And I'd like to say, on behalf of all the students, first semester to last, thank you to all the TAs. And of course, excellent lecturers, teachers are the most important thing for teaching in general. And there's countless lecturers that put the teaching first, put the students first. And without their constant effort, the ETH would not be the excellent educational facility that it is. Which is why the ETH's Student Association every year at the ETH Day awards the Golden Owl for extraordinary teaching achievements. And a survey among the students decides who will get that prize. The relentless efforts by our lecturers have never been as important as they are today, which is why they can be especially proud of this award. Now I'm very happy to be able to announce the laureates in this short video.
Meine sehr geehrten Damen und Herren, zusätzlich zur goldenen Eule.
Ladies and gentlemen, additionally to the Golden Owl, the ETH also awards the Credit Suisse Award for Best Teaching every year. All lecturers that have already been awarded a Golden Owl are up for selection here. This year's award winner has already won 2 Golden Owls in their 5 years here, regularly have excellent scores, and is a very innovative person in the structuring of their teaching. Professor Laurent van Bever is the one receiving the Credit Suisse Award for Best Teaching this year from the Department of Information Technology and Electric Engineering.
Liebe Gäste,
Dear guests,
wir kommen nun zur höchsten
this brings us to the highest distinction that ETH of Zurich has to award, honorary doctorates and the appointment of honorary councillors. This year, ETH of Zurich has 2 persons to receive an honorary doctorate. Both of them work in the United States of America, and that's why they unfortunately cannot be with us today. Given the time lag, we also had to do without the idea of having a live webcast showing these persons, so we're actually giving the awards in absence of the personalities. The heads of the departments of Biosystems and Material Sciences are presenting their honorary doctors in a video, and we had to record this prior to the ETH Day. Please play the video.
Sehr geehrte Damen und Herren,
Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great honor and a special pleasure for me to present to you Professor Stephen Quake. Steve Quake is an exceptional scientist whose research spans a wide range of disciplines, ranging from physics through to biology and medicine. Following his studies of mathematics and physics at Stanford and a doctorate in theoretical physics at Oxford in 1994, Quake initially became known for measuring biophysical phenomena of individual molecules. As a professor at Caltech and at Stanford from 2004, he became a pioneer in microfluidics, revolutionizing biomedical research and diagnostics. His work developed new diagnostics tools, and his work based on DNA sequencing, amongst other things, enabled the development of a new prenatal genetic test and prediction of success of organ transplants. Steve Quake is also an entrepreneur. He has always made sure to use what he developed in the lab to make it available to the medical community by commercializing them. In his interdisciplinary work, Steve Quake, maybe better than anyone else, showed that creative application of quantitative, precise and accurate measuring does not only change fundamental research, but also has a decisive impact on clinical medicine and commercial developments. His scientific achievements have had an impact on the research at the Biosystems Department and ETH of Zurich in general.
The Department of Biosystems Science and Engineering is very proud that you are being awarded an honorary doctorate from ETH Zurich.
Vielen Dank, Professor Bärenwinkel, für diese schöne Wörter.
Thank you, Professor Bärenwinkel.
Dear Professor Quake, I will read the laudatio in German first, as written in the certificate. Die Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule,
The Federal Institute of Technology of Zurich
Professor Dr. Stephen
awards to Dr. Stephen R. Quake for his pioneering work in microfluidics and his groundbreaking technological innovations and his entrepreneurial spirit at the interface between biology, biotechnology, medicine and physics, the honor of an honorary doctor of ETH of Zurich.
You most certainly want to know what this certificate says, and here is the translation. With this certificate, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology, Zurich, awards Professor Dr. Stephen R. Quake the title of Honorary Doctor for his pioneering work in microfluidics, as well as his groundbreaking technological innovations and his entrepreneurial spirit at the interface between biology, biotechnology, medicine, and physics. The entire ETH congratulates you and is very pleased that you've accepted the honorary doctorate. We're delighted that you have agreed to say a few words to our audience.
Rector Springman and distinguished colleagues, thank you for this wonderful and most unexpected honor. ETH is, of course, one of the most respected scientific institutions in the world, and I'm proud to now be associated with it. I have visited ETH a number of times over the years to give talks and attend meetings, and I've always been thoroughly impressed with the quality of the faculty and the students, their commitment to asking deep scientific questions, and the rigor with which they approach those questions. I will do my best to uphold this standard. Unfortunately, the circumstances of the world coronavirus pandemic prevent me from joining you in person, and indeed have precipitated a change in the format of this year's ETH Day celebration. Hopefully, next year we'll be back to normal. That's a thought I'm sure is shared by many. When will our lives be normal again, and what will it take to get there? I wish I knew the answers, and I wish I knew when it would happen, but I do believe it will happen, and I believe I know how it will happen, through science. It is science that will lead us to new vaccines, new therapies, and new ways to manage the pandemic and enable us to ultimately defeat the virus. We're seeing some of the first evidence of this with the exciting announcement last week that an RNA vaccine had achieved 90% efficacy in a large clinical trial. Like others, I am looking forward to seeing the actual data and understanding if the claim stands up to careful scrutiny and review, but I'm hopeful. There was other good news last week in that the FDA gave emergency use approval to the first biologic therapy to treat and control COVID infection. I'm particularly proud of that in the sense of reflected glory because that antibody was discovered by a former student of mine working with the microfluidic tools that he helped develop as part of his thesis many years ago. This is truly a triumph of biosystem science and engineering, and one that is the culmination of 2 decades of research and development by many groups. I will conclude by noting that our best hope for the future comes from young people. They have the energy, vision, and fearlessness to get the world to a better place, and what I love about my job is that I get to work alongside young people and feel their reflected energy. I can only hope that getting to graduate all over again today will help act as a fountain of youth and allow me to recapture some of that energy as well. Thank you again for this wonderful honor.
Professor Sparpin is currently the John and Helen Franklin Professor of Applied Physics at Harvard University. He studied material science and engineering at the KU Leuven in Belgium in 1971 and then moved to Harvard University as a Fulbright scholar to do his PhD in applied physics. He moved through the ranks at Harvard from being a postdoc to a full professor in 1983. In his research, Professor Sparpin has used clever experiments and incisive theoretical insights to obtain a very deep understanding in a broad range of material classes. These include seminal contributions to the structure and thermodynamics of thin films and interfaces, the mechanical properties of such multilayers, and the stability of things as quasicrystals. His major work has focused on understanding how amorphous disordered solids deform and flow, which applies to metallic glasses all the way to household products such as yogurt. In all of these studies, Professor Sparpin has achieved a local-scale mechanistical understanding of these materials. His ideas and models have stood the test of time and even become the language which we use in this community to describe these topics. When we discussed the possibility of nominating him for an honorary doctorate of ETH Zurich, it was truly impressive to see just how many of us working on different aspects of material science use his work either in teaching or in our research. It should also be mentioned that Professor Sparpin has performed a tremendous service to his own university, for the academic community worldwide, and for the ETH Zurich in particular. Und damit, Frau Rektorin, übergebe ich Ihnen das Wort und ich kongratuliere.
So I hand the floor back to you, dear Rector, and congratulate Mr. Sparpin. Thank you for this great presentation of our honorary doctor.
I'm going to read the Laudatio in German as written in the certificate. Die Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule
ETH of Zurich,
Professor Dr.
in giving this certificate to Dr. Franz A. Sparpin, awards him for his outstanding contribution to the basic understanding of the structure and properties of melts and amorphous materials, and his significant impact on material science and applied physics, the honor of honorary doctorate of science.
Dear Professor Sparpin, I imagine that you will certainly understand some German. However, I allow myself to translate the certificate for you. With this certificate, the Swiss Federal Institute of Technology in Zurich awards Professor Dr. Franz A. Sparpin the title of Honorary Doctor for his outstanding contributions to the fundamental understanding of the structure and properties of melts and amorphous materials, and his significant influence on material science and applied physics. We are delighted to welcome you to the circle of honorary doctors of our university. And now, please feel free to say a few words to our audience.
Thank you, Rector Springman and Professor Vermont. I'm very honored and delighted to be offered this honorary doctorate from the ETH, which I gratefully accept. To be recognized in this way by some of one's most distinguished colleagues gives a special satisfaction. What has appealed to me in material science is its interdisciplinarity and the creativity that this stimulates. And materials at ETH exemplifies this in several ways, by the range of materials being studied, by its close links with the surrounding sciences and other engineering disciplines. And it's been my pleasure to observe the richness and the depth of the work in the department through long association with several of its members, by occasional visits, and also by chairing a departmental review a few years ago. Materials will always be important. Everything is made of something. And the health of our roads and bridges, for example, requires constant attention to traditional materials. And on the other hand, the development of a usable quantum computer will no doubt have significant bottlenecks in materials. And just like quasicrystals and two-dimensional materials in the past, there will continue to be surprises in fundamental science. And ETH and its department are well placed to play a prominent role in this future, and I look forward to many more years of delightful visits and cooperation.
I would like to thank the two honorary doctors, Steve Quake and Franz Sparpin, for their friendly words. We share the confidence that Steve Quake has expressed and hope that the situation will change for the good soon, so that 1 year from now we'll be able to award the distinctions here at, physically at ETH Zurich. I'm all the more pleased that Calvin Grady and Adrian Weiss are here at the Semper Auditorium for us to appoint them honorary councillors of ETH Zurich. Dear guests, philanthropy has a long tradition in Switzerland in cultural and social institutions. The promotion of teaching and research at universities, however, has been less marked for a long period of time in international comparison. Adrian Weiss and Calvin Grady, like in many other respects in their lives, however, have taken on a pioneering role. It is a great pleasure for me to honor these two personalities today. In the past, they have repeatedly contributed to ETH Zurich in a very special way and are still doing it with major commitment. I would like to ask Calvin Grady to briefly rise. Thank you, Calvin. The president of ETH, Joël Mesot, is going to briefly present you.
Es ist mir eine Freude.
It's a pleasure and honor for me to present to you Mr. Calvin Grady. Calvin Grady was born in 1955, and in his career he held various management positions with well-known companies. For many years he was the CEO of the Bühler Group, and he is the chairman of the board of Bühler Group as well as Givaudan SA to this day. In his career, he managed time and again to reconcile technical knowledge and entrepreneurial thinking in various disciplines. In 1979, Calvin Grady graduated with a degree in mechanical and process engineering from ETH Zurich, and he has remained closely associated with ETH to this very day. He's an untiring agent between business and science and a major sponsor of throughout ETH Foundation. He inspires others with his passion for research and gets them to support ETH Zurich projects. I'm thinking of his commitment to the World Food Systems Center at ETH, but also for the Future Food Initiative that was recently founded in cooperation with EPFL, Bühler, Givaudan, and Nestlé. The Health Science and Technology Department was able to count on his rich experience in defining the content. The Mechanical Engineering and Process Technology Department benefits from his advice as a member of the Industrial Advisory Board. His pioneering spirit is contagious, and he cooperates with ETH and representatives of the industry in coming up with a master course for future engineers in Ghana. Thus, promoting the exchange of knowledge between the North and the South in a visionary campaign. Calvin, we would like to thank you for your outstanding merits and will be pleased to shape the future in cooperation with you.
Herzlichen Dank, Joël.
Thank you, Joël.
Die Eidgenössische Technische Hochschule.
The Federal Institute of Technology, ETH of Zurich, appoints Mr. Calvin F. Grady for his extraordinary personal commitment for the promotion of teaching and research at ETH Zurich, and in particular for his outstanding ability of reconciling technical and entrepreneurial knowledge to realize innovative visionary ideas as an honorary counselor of ETH of Zurich.
Oh, are we going to do all three of us? Okay, good.
Bitte jetzt Adrian Weiss.
I would now like to call Adrian Weiss to briefly rise.
Meine Damen und Herren,
ladies and gentlemen, I'll be pleased to present to you our second honorary counselor, Mr. Adrian Weiss, and his merits for the benefit of our institution. Adrian Weiss was born in 1940 and graduated from ETH of Zurich in architecture in 1967, laying the foundation stone for his business career. After 8 years as an architect, in which he built the well-known business school building at Eschewitzplatz, he went on to be committed to the field of magnetic electromotors, working for the group of his father, himself, an ETH engineer working on inventing linear drives and the torque motor. Adrian Weiss held various mandates on boards of directors and has been the chairman of the board of trustees of the Adrian Weiss Foundation he founded himself since 2014. He is in close contact until this day with ETH of Zurich, and as a person building bridges between the business world and companies, science and the business world, and as a great mentor of young talent. Through his foundation and the ETH Foundation, Adrian Weiss contributes both with ideas and financial resources to teaching and research at ETH, in particular in the disciplines of architecture, electrical engineering, and computer science. He is particularly keen on promoting students by means of the Excellent Scholarship and Opportunity Program, seed projects, the Pioneer Fellowships, the Rector's Impulse Fund, as well as ETH research grants. The sheer range of promotion tools promoted by him and others goes to show how significant his support for ETH of Zurich is. Adrian, we would like to thank you very much for your enormous philanthropic commitment and your close bond and association with your alma mater.
Danke, Joël.
Thank you, Joël.
Die Eidgenössische Technische
Federal Institute of Technology, ETH of Zurich, handing over this certificate, appoints Mr. Adrian U. Weiss for his outstanding personal commitment to the promotion of teaching and research at ETH of Zurich, in particular for his work in the fields of architecture, electrical engineering, and computer science, as well as in student talent and entrepreneurial spirit, an honorary counselor of ETH of Zurich. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the close of our ceremony today, and we're going to have music to wind it up. This gives me the opportunity to thank the Strings Quartet for their music. Ferdinand Nussbaum, Sarah Ien, Chantal Moser, and Emanuel Hubmann of the Academic Orchestra have provided the musical setting in this extraordinary meeting. And my last word of thank you, dear guests, goes on behalf of the entire Executive Board, goes to you. We are very pleased that you have been celebrating the 165th anniversary of ETH, even though some of you are in remote mode. And I wish all of you to remain safe and get well through these difficult periods of time. Stay healthy. We very much hope to be able to welcome you physically to ETH again next year. And now for the famous last words, over to music.